Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey David, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I don't think from the start of the game, I don't think I took a breath until James Neal scored in the third period. So that was a long time to go without oxygen, but I made it, and so did the
hmm
Edmonton Oilers, Bruce. Huge, absolutely huge 6-3 win over the Blackhawks. And today I was reminding myself, like, we've obviously as Oilers fans been through lots of playoff series, and I was thinking back to 1990, the Winnipeg series,
Yes.
and how the Oilers got off to a pretty rocky start in that one. But game one against Chicago, I think, was the single rockiest playoff game I think I've ever seen an Oilers team play. They were just so many of their best players had absolutely rancid, terrible, no good, rotten games in game one. And the only upside I could think was they can't get any worse than that, and maybe they can even snap back and be a whole lot better. And that's exactly what we saw tonight, was a number of players snapping back and being a whole heck of a lot better. This was it was a pretty even though the game was close to the end, middle of the third, it was a pretty dominant game, I thought, by the Edmonton Oilers overall. And the score reflected the flow of play in the end, 6-3. The Oilers were clearly the better team. So this is our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers podcast. And because it's a big Oilers win, Bruce will go with two good things each. So what's your
Let's,
first good thing?
let's do that. I'm going to go with the Edmonton penalty kill, which went to work in the second period when they had four penalties, and one of which carried over into the third. But in particular, there was a stretch of time. 7:37 Cassian for holding, 9:35 Sheahan for slashing, 11:56 Benning for high sticking. Well, that's what 21 seconds of even strength hockey in a six and a half minute span. They were shorthanded for the entire time, and especially the first of the three penalty kills, which was featured some heroic play from several Oilers who paid the price. All four penalty killers blocked a shot, and Ethan Bear blocked two, and Sheahan and Archibald each blocked one, and then Nurse took one rocket that he stopped. And then they carried on. The Oilers blocked 12 shots in the last 12 minutes of the second period, and they were kind of hanging on. That was the game, part of the game that Chicago really were bringing it, and of course all those power plays helped. And uh, just the determination of the Edmonton penalty killers after their dismal game one to not get scored on. And, I don't know that Koskinen had too many real tough saves to make on the penalty kill. I think the guys in front of him mostly made those saves and otherwise got the job done. And even though they eventually did give up that 3-2 lead briefly on a kind of a cheesy goal from the point, they got it back with a cheesy lead of their own, a goal of their own to regain the lead right away. And I saw that sequence of penalty kills as part of the game where it seemed like the Oilers should be on the ropes, and in one respect they were, but in another, that was when they really stood tall or laid down wide or whatever. They were getting in the way of those pucks, and they were taking them for the team. And you got to like that. There's lots of different ways to take one for the team, but blocking a one-time slap shot is certainly one of those ways.
Bruce, they before the game, I wrote a piece, five things the Oilers have to do to
Mm,
win this game, and
terrific.
one of them was to be calm on the PK,
Yep.
and they weren't chasing as much this time. Chicago
hmm
had a lot of possession on that PK,
Yep.
but the Oilers didn't get out of position. They didn't give those seams up, and they didn't give the open shot in front of the net. Maybe once, and I think that was blocked by Nurse.
Right.
That someone got a really good shot in front of the net. So this was a very disciplined, calm, excellent veteran power play going to work. Just fantastic work on the penalty kill going to work. And yeah, that's what I noticed. They weren't panicked this time. They didn't try to do too much. And Chicago in that time frame, according to our analysis, Bruce, they did not get off one grade A scoring chance shot that was stopped by Koskinen. I think the one that Nurse stopped, theoretically a grade A shot, but I think Koskinen was in position to make the save as well. So we don't count block shots by the defenseman as getting through to the goalie unless the defenseman is going to make the save itself. That would have been a goal, and the goalie's out of position. But Koskinen was in position anyway. That was really fantastic that they didn't allow even one grade A chance. And I was on the edge of my chair the whole time, like I'm sure every Oilers fan was, because Chicago really did dominate possession. Much of those power plays, they just were moving the puck around, but they couldn't get a tough shot through. They couldn't get a dangerous shot through, which was fantastic.
Yeah, well, I mean, when they got vets like Kane and Keith and Taves letting the puck do the work, and the puck was zing, 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 zing going around, but they didn't set up the kind of wide open shots that they were getting on Saturday afternoon. That was the undoing of the penalty kill. I mean, one of the even strength goals was like that, where they lost a battle in the corner, and Slater Cook wound up, he literally wound up in that fly from, right in the slot where he was wide open, had all day to pick his spot. But that was at even strength. But on the penalty kill, they kept damage to the minimum. And let's see now, on Saturday, Chicago had 13 shots on the power play, and tonight they had 6. So Edmonton really cut that down. And I mean, they had a lot of shot attempts, but they didn't get that many through. So, I mean, I think those 2 penalty kills in a row blocked 7, and they only got 6 on net. So
the block shot is huge on the penalty kill, especially in the playoffs. It's a huge part of a winning team's game, and the Oilers had that going on.
Did you hear the bench erupting when some of these shots were being blocked? Like, this is the sort of thing you don't usually hear in the game because of the crowd, right? And you heard the big attaboy kind of sounds coming from the Oilers bench when these shots were being blocked. And you can just hear it lifting the whole team.
I guess that's what it sounds like when you kill a rat, right? Isn't that the
attaboy, you got him.
The dismissive put down some people make for...
a person, Kent Wilson, it was actually a great line. It says blocking shots is like killing rats. It needs to be done, but if you find yourself doing a whole lot of it, maybe you got a bigger problem. And he's got a very, very good point. But they killed a few rats in rapid succession there in the second period.
I guess if rats were bothering you, if you killed one, that would be pretty damn satisfying. Bruce, my good thing is Connor McDavid. My good thing is Connor McDavid, and he was absolutely fantastic this game. He had been so flat at even strength in the first game, and had probably his worst even strength game of the season, I think it might be fair to say. And tonight he just came out from the get-go, and his hand-eye coordination, Bruce, on the first and second goal.
The puck is just boing, 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 and he's tapping it out of the air and
bouncing pucks. On the rush up, so the first goal, he picks it up, a bouncing puck, and slaps it in the top corner. But on that rush up the ice, including him playing the puck to himself once, he was dealing with a bouncing puck almost the entire time, and he kept bouncing it along and controlling it until he was able to pick, the top. It was a shorthand. Was it a backhand shot, top shelf backhand? Is that what that was?
The second one was a backhand. The first one was kind of a whack
first forehand.
One timer on forehand, and 2 roof jobs in the first 4 minutes of the game.
So he was just, and there had been, of course, some BS commentary about McDavid after the last game that he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, his personality was somehow lacking. It was ridiculous. I mean, the fact of the matter is, like, there's all these players who are completely stoic and don't let things get to them. And Gretzky was like that, so bland with the media. And to say that McDavid isn't a leader because he's curt, terse, and bland with the media. I mean, I think I would also be those things if I was asked questioned about my fellow workers, my performance on the job, and my bosses all day long, every day. I think I'd be pretty closed-mouthed as well. And to take that and extrapolate that into that isn't a leader on the Oilers was just a truly atrocious take. for.
It was a Zoom interview after a bad loss by his team. What do you expect him to be? Effusive and charming? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Anyway, he.
Well, the guy who did that has a, he's has a reputation for getting out of line on Twitter, and he did again there, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't even know if McDavid heard about that, but
Oh, I dare
nonetheless,
say.
I dared. Yeah, I think he probably did. But Bruce, that was a fantastic. That was his best game that we've seen him play in the playoffs. That he's now got what is it? He got 3 points tonight, three, so 6 points in 2 playoff games. So he's helping out.
Here's a little detail that I liked, and I'll take credit because this is true, of course, for saying it before the goal ever happened. But the game started in Chicago, of course, as a visiting team. They choose their lines first. Jonathan Toews lines up at center, and you think if Tippett's going to match up and try and avoid McDavid from Toews, he's not going to put him out for the opening faceoff, and he did put him out for the opening faceoff. And I said to my wife, this is a good call. I like that he's put McDavid out there. It's just giving him the challenge right off the bat. And McDavid scores at the 19-second mark. Toews' jersey number, just for a little added little nice touch on that first goal. And you kind of felt things are going to be better with all's going to be well with the world when McDavid scores in the first 20 seconds of play.
I think that McDavid may have asked to play against. I don't know if he did or not, but I suspect that he may have asked to play against Toews in that game, which was a really bold statement from McDavid. If that's what's happened, and I'm just guessing, I have no idea. I'm just guessing. But if that's what happened, like he's like, I'm doing it. I'm taking on that line, and I'm gonna show them what's what and who's who. And so if that's what happened, that's fantastic. And if it was just the coach making that call, that's also really gutsy and ballsy to put up McDavid in that position. And because every fan was complaining about it, including me and you, I think, at the Cult of Hockey, that matchup, but they just embraced it. And that's how you have to win. It is truly how you have to win in the playoffs. Your best players must consistently go against the best players on the other team and better them. And there's no other way to win in the playoffs. It's so good for them for doing it.
Well, he played the most minutes tonight, over 6 minutes against Saad, Kubalik, and Toews. 6-10 directly against Toews, during which time the Oilers outshot the Hawks 6-1 and outscored them 1-0. And so they were dominating the play head-to-head, McDavid against Toews.
What is your second good thing, Bruce McCurdy?
I'm going to go with a player who doesn't get a lot of love around here lately. Jujhar Khaira, I thought he was excellent in this game. I really enjoyed his play. Thought he had a strong game. He was taking the puck hard in the net. He was shooting it hard. He had 4 shots on net, and they were good, solid shots. I don't know how many of them were scoring chances, but from sort of, if we were still scoring grade B scoring chances, a couple of them were that. But I just like his decision making. I thought he's looking pretty solid between the 2 veteran wingers, James Neal and Alex Chiasson. And tonight's game, we really saw that they sort of embraced their role as a forechecking, grinded out unit, but they were actually generating plays and chances and doing things with the puck, and really not getting into any kind of trouble on the defensive side. Khaira, he played 9.5 minutes at even strength. Oilers outshot the Hawks 8-2. And and he had 4 of those shots, right? I mean, he had a strong game. He was 4-4 on the faceoff dot, so he held his own there. The one little down thing was he did take a holding penalty at the blue line late in the second period, but he also chipped in on the penalty kill, not that one, on the other ones, as he usually does. And I just liked his game, and I think he's looking more comfortable at center. And I would never have guessed this a year ago. I was thinking, he's almost certainly cast his future as being a winger now, and yet he's played some of his best hockey in what was a pretty mediocre year for him, to be honest. I would say tonight was one of his best games that he's ever played for the Oilers.
It was, Bruce. It's we followed his career all the way through the AHL, where he worked his way up from a fourth line center to the best player on that AHL team.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really hopeful that he would carry on in the NHL and continue to do that. But he has been so inconsistent. We've seen some really good signs and good games from Khaira, but the mental game hasn't been there where he's been able to be an effective hockey player game in, game out, because he's had really good games and really bad games. Now, this is 2 good games in a row, and to give Tippett credit, I mean, I criticized him after last game. This grind line that he's put together was probably the best Oilers line last game, and it was again this game was they were just really fantastic. They're really giving hell to the Chicago defense, and I have to give Tippett credit also for putting Archibald up with McDavid.
Mm-hmm.
It was exactly the right move with Nugent Hopkins and McDavid. It freed. I think Archibald's quite a smart player, and I think what it does is it frees up McDavid and Nuge just to attack, because they know they're going to be covered by Archibald, who's going to be in the right spot to cover for them. He's kind of like their Tikkanen, not as good as Esa Tikkanen, but the same role that Tikkanen played with Curry and Gretzky. So I liked that line
a lot. Grease ball, eh?
Yeah. I wonder if he speaks Tikish. Which is a famous Cam Cole line. That Esa Tikkanen has his own language, Tikish.
Tikkanese was the other word I heard to describe it, which was pretty funny.
Anyway. I once interviewed Tikkanen, and he was he really did have a unique way of expressing himself. It was like an hour-long interview over lunch. Like I was writing a profile on him, and he was quite a character. I really liked him in person. Bruce,
some exchanges with him on Twitter, and he actually does chat back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
He's got a different outlook, that's for sure.
Bruce, is it time for it's time for my second good thing, and I'm going to go with the bounces in the game. And we've often said the games come down to like 2 excellent plays, 2 big saves, and 2 bounces. And in this game, it was more like 4 bounce. It came down to 4 bounces, but 3 of them went for the Oilers and 1 of them went for the Hawks. And on the Oilers' 4th, 5th, and 6th goals, they just got those bounces that they desperately needed. And you'd think one of those goals would have broken the Blackhawks back, like when Ennis's weird goal went in, right? That went off at least 1 player, I think, for sure, maybe 2. Ennis's goal, his point shot.
Well, I thought it just kind of went through everybody, and just Crawford never saw it because it went through. Yeah. Somebody was decking Draisaitl in the slot, and there was a lot of sort of slam bang stuff going on, and Ennis just kind of sifted it in there. It might have caught a skate or something on the way in.
It did, maybe.
I'd have to look again, but it was. And that you're not even counting that as one of the bounces, right? That was the 3-1 goal.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. And then the 4-3 goal, McDavid bounced it off the leg of Duncan Keithanen. This was right after Chicago tied it on a cheap bounces of their own.
There was 2 bounces on McDavid's goal, Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
There was 2. It went off the guy's stick and then the defenseman in front of the net.
Yeah, okay.
So both those guys. It's actually. I would say I'm counting the Ennis's. So we're talking about all 4 of the last 4 goals.
4 goals. Yeah.
I thought, and then
McDavid
Neal's
got the
goal.
2 early.
Neal's goal was absolutely fantastic. Obviously, because who knew how that game was going to go until that moment. And good for speaking of Jujhar Khaira, he just charged in there on that play, and it was him charging in there that freaked out Crawford a little bit.
Yep.
And Neal just did what he does. James Neal can still put that puck. He's still got the hands, Bruce. He can still tuck that puck home. And then there's a great Neal bull rush up the ice where he charges at the net, and a Chicago defenseman, in trying to stop him, slams the puck at his own goalie, forcing a grade A save. And then Chiasson gets the rebound and slams it in. So those are the bounces that a team needs. Even in a game where they actually dominate in a lot of ways, you need those bounces, and they certainly got them tonight.
Well, both goals were scored as unassisted goals officially.
Oh, really?
And I really thought Khaira deserved an assist on the first one, and I really thought Neal deserved an assist on the second one. But I guess they were monitoring who last touched the puck. And I mean, who touched it versus who actually had proper possession of it is often two different questions. And they may revisit those. The Oilers had 3 unassisted goals in this game. And then the other 3 were all McDavid from Nugent Hopkins. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
that big, I mean, those 2 unassisted goals, at least 2 of the big 3 guys were in there causing all kinds of ruckus and disturbance. And one was a 5-foot shot officially, and the other was a 7-foot shot. You know, they got it in close to the net, and when they got their chance, they buried it. Chiasson, like, he had the puck at a bad angle, and he just roofed it, no mistake, ripped it upstairs. And once it was 6-3, that was finally when you said you felt relief at 5-3. When they got the 6-3 goal, I was starting to think, okay, maybe we got this one. It was so frenetic for 40 minutes. And I think Chicago just keeps on coming. But they kind of died off in the third.
I thought with the 2-goal lead and Edmonton playing pretty well that it was probably safe at that point, but you never know. Bruce, what is your bad thing?
I'm going to, for all those block shots, I'm going to single out Chris Russell's misguided attempt to block, who was it who scored the third goal? Oli Mata from the point. This sort of 62-foot floater that's just coming in, and Koskinen's all over it. I mean, any goalie's going to stop that puck 100% of the time, and Krusty decides that he's going to block it instead, and he tries to make a skate save, and he winds up kicking it up and over and past, dribbled over. It was a bad bounce. I'll grant you it was a bad bounce. I just thought it was in the heat of the action. The instincts of that particular player is to try and basically be a goalie and block everything. But sometimes you just got to let the guy behind you do his job, and you do yours, of clearing the crease and the rebound. So in a game where I saw a lot more good things than bad, I'm going to single out that one play. Not the player, you know, I mean, the player made the play, but I mean, he didn't have a bad game, but that was a bad play.
Yeah, it's tough, those ones. I don't know if I can agree completely. Like, because when you're a shot blocker, and when shot blocking is such a key part of the game, it's kind of hard to say, well, on that one, he deflected it in, and those other ones, they saved the game. Because there's a fine line between the two.
There is. And
you're going for it all the time, right? If you're going to block the shots, you're just going to block the shots. So I know this was Don Cherry's, one of his pet peeves, but I think it's, and I know that you don't make that criticism. Like, Don Cherry made it all the time, right? He just thought the defenseman needed to get, because that's the way it was done in the 1970s.
He cherry-picked like crazy. Every time a defenseman tried to tip a shot and it went in the net, it would be on coach's corner that Saturday night. And the 557 times that a defenseman tipped a puck into the stands, none of them would ever be on coach's corner.
Yeah. His idea of hockey was rooted in the past. I mean, the whole thing about getting stick on puck is an absolute hockey fundamental. And it's taught at all levels of the game now. And if you don't get stick on puck, like, you're not playing hockey. It's the whole game. And shot blocking is huge. So in this case, it went bad. Usually it goes right.
This is a reluctant bad thing for me on a good night. Let's
okay.
put it. I guess I could whine about the refs overturning the 4-minute high sticking call on Dylan Strome because they decided it was Riley Sheahan's stick and not Strome's stick that high stick Kassian. But if they really looked at the replay that they looked at, they would have seen Strome grab Sheahan's stick and smash Kassian in the face with it.
It should have been
Watch
a penalty.
That replay again. He did use Sheahan's stick, but it was his grab and shove of the stick into Kassian's face that drew the blood.
Yeah, I don't know if there's some technicality around the rule that would prevent you from giving the penalty to Strome, but clearly he grabbed his stick and shoved it into Kassian's face. It accidentally, I think. I don't think it was an intentional play, but he did intentionally grab the stick. He was trying to slow down the player.
And this is the new rule that came about after the utter fiasco of last year's playoffs that cost Vegas Golden Knights the 7th game against San Jose when Joe Pavelski got hurt on a play where they tabbed a major penalty, and it really wasn't a penalty at all. And San Jose scored 3 on the third period power play to tie up Game 7 and ultimately win it in overtime. And they changed the rule because of that. And this is the first time I've actually seen them apply that rule and rescind the penalty. So, of course, it happens to the Oilers. But
Well, they could have. They
In
could have rescinded.
fairness, most of the games I watch are Oilers games, so it probably happened in a bunch of other games that I didn't see. But
Could have been worse. They could have rescinded the penalty and given Chicago a third-round draft pick from the Oilers. Bruce, my bad thing is some of the slot coverage of the Oilers, and man, the first goal. As great as McDavid, as great as McDavid was that game, man, he's got to make that play on Patrick Kane. And to give McDavid credit, for the rest of that period, he was on those guys in the slot finally. Like, he's got to be. If he wants to win the Stanley Cup, he's got to make up his mind. He will not let someone score on him in the defensive slot. He let Kane do it on their first goal. And Nurse also kind of got dragged behind the net, which is, instead of covering the slot. Like, they're not going to score from back there, but maybe they want pressure on the puck. So I'm not going to say anything on that. But McDavid was right there with Kane. He had to cover that. And then we saw it again a few moments later. And Chiasson was the closest player to the shooter. I can't remember who got the shot off, but it was a really deadly scoring chance shot that Koskinen stopped. And then on the second Chicago goal, there's a whole cluster of Oilers players who were to blame for Slater Kukuk's goal, where he was just, again, wide open in the slot, plenty of time to pick the corner. And there was Annis out there, Draisaitl out there, Yamamoto with a turnover, Koskinen with a bad rebound. Both Nurse and I think it was Bear might have picked off the pass or done something. But man, that was just a mess. Anytime you give a guy that kind of time to move right in the slot, you're asking for trouble. So, but after that, and so up until that moment, Bruce, I was thinking, this Oiler team, if they lose this game, it's because they have forgotten how to cover the defensive slot. But they actually tightened things up considerably after that. And to beat Chicago, they're going to have to get on that. They're going to have to get on the slot defense and not continue to make those mistakes. And hopefully McDavid that will be the final wake-up call. And same with Draisaitl. Draisaitl's got to do a bit better in the defensive slot as well.
They got to identify that guy and go to him, not go near him, but actually go to him and take a stick and so on. Like McDavid, it would have required a real good play, but he was in position to make the real good play, and he didn't make it on the Kane goal.
What is your numero, Bruce?
I'm going to go with this 35-26. This is the shots on goal in this game for Edmonton. And this is after Edmonton basically getting blitzed in the shot clock in 4 out of 4 games against Chicago this year, with an average game shot clock of 40-28 for Chicago. 40-28. So Chicago has really been peppering Edmonton's netminders, and they've had a substantial edge in shots, like at least 7 more shots than Edmonton in all 4 games to this point. And so that was something Edmonton needed to turn around, and they did. 35-26, especially like that 26. They held Chicago to just 7 shots in the third period when it was 4-3 Edmonton for much of the period, and they seemed to seize more control of the game even just before they got the 2 goals. I liked the way they were playing with the lead, and then of course, once they expanded the lead to 3, it was clear sailing. But they really bore down on their defensive aspect. Their puck support was better. There's getting the puck out of the zone was better, and I thought just their decision making was better. And I was starting to calm down after sort of 5 periods of what's going on. How'd that guy get open like that and get the puck? And so it's nice to see them. The way they finished off this game was very encouraging.
18-8 for grade 8 chances for the Oilers, 18 Excellent. For the Oilers, 8 for Chicago. And I agree. We've seen the Oilers, this Oilers team at our Tippett play some fantastic defensive games this year where they've shut down the opposition and been really solid in the third period. I think the most solid defensive Oilers team since the Stanley Cup run at times, and like better than any of McClellan's teams in that regard in terms of being able to shut down the opposition. And so yeah, I agree. It was finally with starting with that run of penalty kills, and then the even strength play in the third. We saw that going on. Bruce, I'm going to single out. There was 18 grade A chances for the Oilers, and 8 of those shots came from I don't know what they call them, the heavy hockey line.
Mhm.
Chiasson had 2, Neal had 3, and Khaira had 3. Eight out of 18 grade A shots. That line had more grade A shots than any other Oilers line. Some of them came on the power play.
How
Of
many
course,
were on the power play?
Yeah, a handful of them, but
Okay.
none of Khaira's, obviously.
Mhm.
And McDavid had 3, Nuge had a couple, Ennis had 3, Yamamoto had 1, Andreas Athanasiou had 1. Bruce, and that just to
He had a nice
quickly
game.
add in, that was his best game as an Edmonton Oiler. He really was hustling. Clearly, when he's hustling and moving his feet and going for it and trying to control the puck down low, not throw it away, he can be a
Mhm.
very effective role player on this Oilers team. I thought that line was also good, but that big line, that was very sweet to behold, the way that Khaira, Chiasson, and Neal played. And if you can get that kind of play out of a fourth line consistently through the playoffs, that's the hallmark of a winning playoff team. And we're a little early in declaring that with the Edmonton Oilers that they're going to be that kind of team, but that's certainly a good signal. All right. Any other thoughts or?
Well, just on Athanasiou, he really showed tonight a real strong desire to attack the defense,
Yeah.
to pick up the puck in the neutral zone and just gather speed and 1-on-1, 1-on-2, take it hard. And he kind of bulls the puck to the net. And he's not, he's not just a speedster. He's got some real sort of strength and power moves in there. And uh, uh, he showed that on a number of plays tonight. And I guess officially he only had 2 shots on net, and they charge him with 3 giveaways. Well, I guess if you want to call it a giveaway when you're mashing the puck into the other team's zone and you don't quite make it through the last line of defense, then I didn't see him as a liability in any way in this game. And I've been quite critical of this player up until now, and this is more a sign of, well, that's what we traded for, maybe. It's what we saw tonight.
Yeah, it kind of justified the trade, right? Like he played well in a really big game, and he was part of a winning effort in a playoff game. So suddenly the trade starts to move in the direction of making a little bit of sense. We'll see how it plays out in the rest of the playoffs. And like, this Oilers team is obviously in tough against Chicago. This is a team that can really score goals and make nice plays, and they're a dangerous hockey team on the attack. So we'll see what happens next, Bruce. Is it Wednesday, this next game?
Yeah, it's Wednesday, then Friday, and if Game 5 is necessary, that goes Saturday on a back-to-back.
So I'm guessing we'll see Koskinen again. Until they lose, I think we'll see Koskinen.
I would think so.
Yeah, he was pretty good. I mean, he had the one bad rebound where it went kind of through his legs, and that kicked off the sequence of pain on the second Chicago goal. But other than that, Koskinen was pretty solid. And
he was solid. Yeah, I didn't like his puck handling much. Like, he went out behind the net, and he was a little off form there a couple times. But his net minding was pretty good. Kukuk found a hole, but he had a real clear look for a hard shot, and it's one of those ones where the goalie doesn't have much time to move, and if it does hit a hole, it's probably going to go in.
Yeah.
So,
the one guy we haven't seen the A game yet from, I'd say from Larson and Clefbaum, we probably saw their B- game today, C+, B-. They were not bad. They weren't fantastic, but they weren't bad. Nurse and Bear, I'm going to give them their B or B+ game. I thought they were pretty good.
I thought Nurse was very good.
But Draisaitl, we have yet to see his A game. And that was he seemed to be lacking a little get up and go at times when I was watching him. He made some nice plays, but we haven't seen him dominate yet in the way that he can. And when he and Yamamoto start getting it going, and it looks like they're going to keep, the balance of Nugent Hopkins with McDavid, and that worked out well tonight. Tippett. I did a poll, Bruce. 90% of fans essentially wanted to see the Dynamite line back together, but Tippett stuck to that, and it's not
and Nuge set up McDavid 3 times.
Yeah, it's not a crazy decision to do that. Like, these are all fantastic hockey players, And you can have these two kind of dominant pairings together. So it's going to be Draisaitl and Nuge aren't going to see each other. I don't think. Tippett's going to stick with that. I think that the message has been sent, although you never know. But Draisaitl, Yamamoto, and Ennis can get it done. Like they can get it done. Although who knows? Maybe if Athanasiou keeps driving like that, he's going to work his way up the lineup. We'll see. Although maybe he needs to be the main guy. Like maybe he needs to know he's the main puck carrier on the line in order to play like he did tonight. So, but anyway, I think we have yet to see Draisaitl's A game, so I'm hoping to see that on Wednesday.
Yeah, he had 3 points with his C game on Saturday, and today he was good in the dot, 13-7 on the dot, but he had no shots on net, which is very rare for him. And as I say, some decent plays, but we certainly didn't see him dominate as we know that he can. And I'm looking for him to lead the charge in Game 3 now. The gauntlet's been put down, and it's time for him to step up and seize the bull by the horns.
Maybe someone will criticize his personality and inspire him now. All right, Bruce, let's leave it there. Kurt's doing the game grades. Thanks for talking tonight.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.